Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly powerful visual journey. We're going to map the human condition in a way that takes us all the way from raw individual vulnerability right up to the incredible heights of collective grace. We're looking at the architecture of compassion. How we build it, why it matters, and how it ultimately connects us all. So let's just get right into it. I want to kick things off by posing this foundational question directly to you. What is our responsibility to each other? Think about it. When we strip away all the noise, the daily grind, the endless distractions we're all dealing with, what do we actually owe to our fellow human beings? Keep that provocative question right at the front of your mind as we move through today's explainer, because honestly, it's the engine driving everything we're about to see. Okay, let's dive into this. Notice the undeniable reality of human vulnerability right here. Look closely at the deep, deep weathering in this man's face. Every single line tells a story of hardship and endurance. But above all, notice that stark, unbreakable eye contact. He's looking directly at us, basically demanding that we acknowledge his existence. It's beautifully raw, and it immediately grounds us in the reality of the human struggle. Because empathy, well, it has to start with truly seeing the person sitting right in front of us. And that brings us to Section 1, Faces of Vulnerability. To really wrap our heads around the vast architecture of global support, we've got to start at the micro level. We need to intimately understand the individual experience of suffering before we can even begin to understand the structures built to fix it. Notice the gritty black and white contrast here that just so perfectly captures the feeling of isolation, even when you're literally surrounded by a crowd. We see a woman sitting on the ground with her meager plates laid out, utterly stationary, and meanwhile all around her is this blur of legs, of people walking completely past her, totally locked in their own little worlds. It visually defines what it means to be invisible in plain sight. It's kind of the ultimate representation of societal disconnect. So, the big defining question becomes, how do we bridge this massive gap? On the left, we've got profound isolation and invisibility. And on the right, we're seeing the beginnings of intentional protective sheltering. How do we take a society that just walks right past the vulnerable and transform it into a society that actually stops, reaches down, and builds a roof over their heads? Let's see how this builds into Section 2, Building Structures of Support. This visual metaphor right here absolutely hits the nail on the head when it comes to human support. We see giant hands physically coming together to form a protective roof over a vulnerable person sitting down below. It shows us that compassion isn't just a fleeting feeling. It's an architectural construct. It requires intention, it requires structure, and it literally requires two hands coming together to create an environment where someone else can find safety and respite. So the crucial point here is that support, like you see here in those bold red letters, is an action verb. Notice the thumbs up physically holding the letter P in place, complete with those little structural guidelines. This is showing us that support doesn't just magically happen on its own. It takes active physical participation. It requires continuous reinforcement to hold up the structures we build for other people. Actually, think about it. If we remove that hand, the whole structure just falls apart. Let's firmly anchor those abstract visual metaphors into a concrete, actionable framework for a second. What we've been looking at is the essence of volunteerism. It's the principle of freely donating time and energy for the benefit of other people in the community as a social responsibility. Notice the word freely there. This is the conscious choice to step out of that blurred crowd we saw earlier, to stop walking past, and to donate your own energy to become a real part of the protective architecture for someone else. But hey, one person can only do so much, right? Which brings us to Section 3, the power of community. We are zooming out now, moving from individual acts of charity to a collective action. Action requires unity. Boom. It is as simple and powerful as that. This punchy phrase shifts our entire visual tone. We're leaving behind that stark black and white reality of isolation and moving straight into an explosion of colorful, multiplied, coordinated action where the whole community just comes together. Just look at the vibrant organic growth happening here. We have a tree trunk formed by a single solid hand, which then branches out into dozens of smaller, multicolored hands serving as the leaves. This is such a fantastic representation of how collective support thrives on diversity. It's not about everyone being exactly the same. It's about all those different colorful contributions blossoming together to create a single, living, breathing organism of support. And building on that collective energy, notice the dynamic circular motion of these diverse hands reaching inward, overlapping and focusing all their energy toward that central blue hand. It perfectly visualizes unity and shared purpose in action. True community support isn't scattered, It's highly focused. It's all about bringing different perspectives and strengths to the table and directing them toward a common central goal so we can lift each other up. And now let's zoom out to the ultimate macro level, the whole shebang. Here, those colorful, diverse hands are literally encircling the Earth. This proves that the architecture of support isn't just some local community initiative, it is a universal, world-spanning imperative. The principles of empathy, of volunteering your time, of building a protective roof over the vulnerable, these transcend borders. It's a global embrace that honestly holds our world together. Finally, let's slow our pacing down a bit as we enter Section 4, our deepest moral imperative. We really need to look at the deep, reflective roots of this entire ecosystem. Look at the ethereal light here and the deeply comforting gesture of the central figure offering grace to those in need. Whether you view this through a strictly moral lens or maybe a deeply spiritual one, the message is exactly the same. Compassion ultimately taps into a profound, universal duty. That hand on the shoulder represents a fundamental grace that connects every single one of us. It's a reminder that our drive to help isn't just practical. It's deeply woven right into the highest ideals of the human spirit. Which brings us to the end of our journey today and leaves us with one final, lingering question. Where do your hands fit in this ecosystem of support? We've traveled from the stark reality of an isolated individual to the protective roof built by a volunteer, to a blossoming tree of community, and finally to the global and moral foundations of grace. The structure is there, absolutely, but it constantly needs building. So how are you going to contribute? I want you to take that thought with you today. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and I can't wait to explore our next incredible topic with you soon.